Thank you for viewing this YouTube archive of a Conscious Consumer Network broadcast. Please feel free to share it far and wide. Check out our weekly broadcast guide for weekly updates on scheduled broadcasts. Help keep us on the air by contributing to our network support fund. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or get in touch via email. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 10 of Now in Zen. And I'm really happy and honored to introduce a very dear friend. Although we've never met personally, we feel we know each other for a long, long time. And his name is Vivek Chaturvedi. He'll be broadcasting from Bangalore, India. That's the tech capital of India, for those not familiar with that city. I've actually lived there myself for some time. They call it a hill station, a little bit cooler there. But Vivek says it's pretty hot lately. And but he was living in Silicon Valley during the dot-com boom and burst. At the same time I was living in Sacramento, and he was right there in the heart of the beast, and went through a very similar transition in his life. We'll get into that later. But he's an innovator, he's an inventor, he's an amazing writer, a beautiful thinker, very, very conscious and awake individual. He's also an amazing musician. He's been on TED Talks. I've featured his articles on my website for a long time. I guess we've known each other like 4 years. We met online, which is, I actually wanted to say, for those, my best relationships I've ever had in my life are with people I've met online. And subsequently, I've been honored to meet several of these people. And it's just wonderful. It's like finding your family at last. And that's why I encourage people to reach out in their local area, go see people that you've made connections with. Make it personal. It's going to be our communication system of the future, really knowing each other and being neighbors when we can. But Vivek, it's an honor to have you, brother. And I'd like you to begin with a little bit about yourself, your story, and something about India, because having lived there 5 years, I have a very special place in my heart for India. I fell in love with it, and I thought I'd never leave. And it's an amazing world of wondrous variety and incredible people, and it's got challenges, it's got beauty, it's got amazing dimensions that you really have to go there to fully experience. But tell us a little bit about your growth, how you so-called woke up and grew extremely conscious like you are now, and how your life changed course, and something about your background, and then something about India, so people can get to know what India is like, a little bit about its history from somebody who's got a very awake and aware perspective.
Well, brothers, and first of all, namaste, aho.
Namaste.
So good to be here with you. Yeah, these beautiful relationships that this Aquarian net has brought us. I mean, I give it so much thanks. And
Yes.
And it's been a pleasure reading you, knowing you. And strangely, 4 years, we've always had this possibility, but never did it. And for good reason, I think. There is a time and a season and a reason for everything. And I think this is now, this. So it's really, really good to be here. And I'd like to publicly say thank you so much, everybody who writes like I do. You know, it's a dream to be featured on Rents. And through your carrying my work and saying such good things about it, that happened for me. And I think it brought me some very interesting leadership from around the world.
Wonderful.
So thank you very much. Yes, it was
My honor.
there you go. So, and yeah, I really want to acknowledge this very interesting thing also. Your and my connect. You're a little bit older, but it looks like we've had very resonant and similar paths through life, passing through the same places and phases.
Yes.
So, yeah, time, it's an interesting concept.
It is, yeah. Frequency. You could say frequency is real. Time is questionable.
Sure, something we will touch upon during the rest of this conversation. But time is very interesting because it's reverses emit. So time is an emission of some sort. Time is emitted. And Gurdjieff, actually, one of the people, G.I. Gurdjieff, one of the people that really influenced me, said something about time that I think was fascinating. And I'm sorry to be throwing this in early, but it's just a beautiful insight that I think needs sharing. That he said that time is breath. Because time begins for you with your first breath and ends with your last breath.
Wow.
And everything in between, the quality of your time is the quality of your breath. You breathe fast, you're panicky, you pass as quickly, you breathe slowly. So time is breath, and ever since I learned that, it really shook me about paying attention to my breathing.
Interesting. And also breathing, we can do it consciously, but it's an involuntary human reaction. We breathe by our nature, just like it looks to us like time is natural. But then as you start to transcend a little bit, you go, there's things about this construct that look a little fishy.
Exactly. So let me just jump quickly to where I've come from. So I have this honor of being on your show. So then I was born into a very interestingly placed family. That is the armed forces in India in the 1960s. The armed forces are the strongest bastion of the British way in India. And actually, as you will see later, they are a pattern that the colonialists left everywhere as people to be followed because they were smart and they spoke well, etc. But I was born into an armed forces family and led a kind of a gypsy-ish life, moving every 2 years, like everybody everywhere in the armed forces has to. And I think that actually kind of sets a rhythm for you for the rest of your life. If you grow up rooted, most people tend to either stay rooted or break away completely. And people that grow up traveling either tend to settle down really hard or continue and expand their traveling ways. And I think I chose the latter, or the latter chose me. I was the rebel without a pause in India, just born at the wrong time in the wrong place. I should have been a hippie in the 60s in the US, because that's all that, that was kind of the siren song of freedom from back when. And I think those of us who've been awake have been awake for a long time, subconsciously or otherwise, and generally rebelling against the system, and especially a system as restrictive as the one that was left to India in every aspect of what India represents. So I saw this restrictiveness, through my father's eyes from the Air Force where he was. And then for some strange and inexplicable reason, I joined the Navy. And again, I can look at, I didn't like it from day 4, purely because of the restrictiveness, and one just wanders into such things at certain phases in your life where you are led. And I think understanding the maritime world is very, very interesting. And you as a former boat owner, meaning you love the ocean and you said you like to live by it, there's something very powerful about the water. And kind of almost against my will, I stayed there for 12 years.
Wow.
And we got to sail and just be near or on the ocean all the time. And I think that's a powerful lesson for anybody waking up. And especially now, waking up for the Aquarian age. Because we discussed this really briefly when we were chatting recently. That, it's like we're moving from the age of Pisces or the 2 fish to the age of the water bearer. So it behooves us to get away from the fish mind into the water mind, the mind of the medium rather than the creature.
Wow.
And then this mind-boggling revelation that the oceans And then the entire water cycle is the largest connected entity on the planet. And we all know it's intelligent.
Yes.
Innately intelligent. So being on that massive body of water in a metal box, for an empath, for a born empath, very interesting, and I'm sure very important life lessons. I learned. They of course push you to the extremes of your physicality, which also is something that is important at one level. They break, and we'll talk again about post-traumatic stress. A very key part of the whole defense, armed forces training breakdown regimen. So I suppose I was meant to go through all of that to then have those experiences to take their essence and work them into my realization that came later. But I had this kind of like a siren song call for the United States of America. And it did represent to me this mythical sort of freedom, but in one specific area, which was education. We have this really strange, by rote, repetitive, analytical, purely left brain, British, and I guess now global education system that is just, it's a cage for the minds, right?
Yes, yes.
And again, something that we'll go over on the language front, but something I like to share, and I think you may have seen that in the TEDx video. But I used to always tell my parents or whoever was willing to listen that I don't agree with this. It's not that I'm not hardworking or I don't like, to study, but something is basically wrong with what we're being taught. So I learned later when I learned about language that I didn't want to do my lessons. Lessons are lessons. I didn't want to do my lessons. I wanted to be a moron.
Boy, isn't that interesting? Yeah.
Actually, many people dismiss this as wordplay, but as we'll come to later, it's really true.
Oh, it is. So, yeah, we'll get into language more later, but
yeah. So
I think important to break that down. Yeah.
Exactly. So I've been a lifelong moron, and it sounds strange when you say it, right? And a series of very fortuitous circumstances led me to be in the US in 1995, which we all know is a very pivotal year in the United States. It's the year the internet really came alive. And
big time.
Yeah, and another interesting little thing for me that I found out much later once the awakening began, that my birthday, the 6th of August, is technically, at least on Wikipedia and others, recognized as the birthday of the internet. It's the day the first CERN page went live.
Wow, interesting. I didn't know that. Isn't that something? You're born on that day?
So what an Aquarian interesting connection,
Yes.
So I landed up there in 95 and went to school and then did the whole military industrial complex thing for a couple of years in Connecticut. But again, a siren song to come west, and let me make this, statement now too. Always the feminine pulling me in the right directions, even if they were the difficult directions. There was always somebody powerful that I had just met, mostly over the net, as it turned out, after 1990.
Interesting.
Yeah, that were drawing me, emails, inviting me to places that I had no idea about and things like that. But anyway, I got to ride the very last of the peak of the .com boom, 99 and 2000, and it was the headiest time. Yeah, exactly. And I bought Webvan shares that went nowhere, and my own stock options and everything, luckily and fortunately for me, went down to nothing because I walked away from that whole thing with just experience.
And living on couches, right?
Yeah. So
life change.
The Immigration and Nationalization Service may not let me in again, but after 2001, I was illegal for 5 years in the US.
Wow.
So I went from being this hyper-educated, multiple master degree, global business development and technology guy, to calculating how much stuff I had gathered in my garage and my BMW, put that all together and just working out my rent. And I ended up staying with 3 young game testers from LucasArts at the age of 35,
Wow.
And and there was a bout with alcoholism, because all of us were feeling shattered at that point,
Right.
right? We were all going to be millionaires.
Yeah. Shock.
And as you saw too, then you couldn't get a U-Haul out of San Francisco in 2001. Everybody left,
Yeah.
right?
It's like after a big earthquake, everybody runs and then they come back.
Seriously, like with the second boom. But I think all of us went through very cathartic and massive experiences with that whole thing, because money is a powerful energy, and then it comes to you and it's shown and then it goes.
Right.
And I think these are the experiences that I took from all these,
Beautiful. These are micro lifetimes. That's the way I view my life. They were in sections, and they actually had literal cutoff points but they're always traumatic. And I didn't handle them very well. But later in life, when they happen, you go, aha, I've been through this before. This time I will have some smarts and not go down all those wrong roads, right?
Yes. I think all thinking people, I think we carry the essence of our experiences with us, luckily, and can call them up, when the time is right. Like you and I spoke of arrogance and money. And it is
you don't think it'll touch you, but it does. It does. It's like things. People say, I own things. No. Things own you.
Things own you. Yes.
And you have to, and a lot of people ask me, what was it like in this, when you had all this money? I said, well, I never really had it. I never thought of it that way. But it's not what you think it is. People have this idea it's going to solve their problems, and it's so illusory. It's a clever little game they play. They're always reeling people in.
It is.
And
it is. I mean, the whole
game got popped out of it. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, this whole game of fiat currency, and yet also understanding the power of money. It does make the world as we know it go round.
Yeah.
So I think to have been close to those $1 billion and deals and things, it leaves a mark on you. You've been near large movements and a time in history, pivotal time in history. Yeah. And then of course, Zen 2001, September 11th. All of us were there on that landmass. There is no way you were left unimpacted by it.
Oh, traumatized, right? Like you said, everything's post-traumatic disorder. You talk about the ultimate ritualistic sorcery act of trauma programming. That was it. I mean, it was brilliant on their part, but unfortunately, so many fell under it.
Exactly. So, and 2000, the great stock crash of 2000 was equally traumatic. So many people lost their money. Right? Yeah. So this is the pattern that we'll again come to later. Why post-traumatic stress seems to be the root cause and the answer, if we can get to the root of it and solve it, for coming back to ourselves,
Yes.
So I got to live for 5 years with lack as my biggest teacher. And I think that's another thing that you really appreciate. And maybe many of us who are on the journey appreciate.
Very much. It's funny that I get a lot of questions from people like, we're doing all this great work, but how do you support yourself in the alternative world? And I've got a website and I'm a radio show and I'm doing YouTubing and I'm communicating, but man, how do you make ends meet? For people who don't have some kind of a day job thing. And people often ask me about that. And I said, I don't know. We need enough energy to keep going, but for some reason, universe sees fit to keep us in touch in this manner. And maybe that's easy for me to say, having been without for, I traveled on a shoestring for 23 years. And then, but I was raised in a very wealthy family in suburbs of New York City. And then I came into this money for 7 years and it blew up. And having tasted both sides, I mean, I don't have like a super conviction because it depends on each individual, but there seems to be, and it's not that poverty has a virtue, and you go be an ascetic monk and beat yourself, but there's something about it, how it keeps you in touch with reality. It's like people who've for eons have grown their own vegetables. They've got to wait for the tomatoes to ripen. They've got to plant them the right season. And you can't be worrying about it. You just got to learn to plan ahead and be in touch with nature. Maybe it has something to do with those cycles, but Yeah, very interesting subject.
I think one of the things that the world could maybe do a little bit more of, or do with a little bit more of, is paying it forward.
Hmm.
Everybody wants it now or yesterday, if you will, and I think that patience of paying it forward, that's a really beautiful concept. I think it sets up energy for you, and in strange and unknown ways, like you're saying, universe seems to keep taking care of us.
Yes, giving unconditionally
Yes,
always has a reward, but you got to
doesn't
let
it?
go. You got to let go. You've got to not be thinking about it.
Mm,
You're worrying
mm,
about it. You're cutting off the signals or whatever. We're screwing with the universal dynamic. But when we give unselfishly, it always comes back. I know when I
doesn't it?
launched out, I'd lost everything around the same time you did. Well, I lost it in the real estate bubble, and actually a little early, and I just dropped everything. We lived on savings for a little bit, but I just went for my passion. I said, okay, I get the point. And slowly things started to work out. Very small, but wonderful indicators, a little here, a little there. And, we would look at each other and just go, wow, we're being taken care of. But I didn't
Right.
worry about it. I still don't worry about it. But it's such an interesting dynamic, no? I mean, you're so right.
So this is what lack taught me, and I think the archetypal picture of the fool in the tarot deck,
Yes,
there's really something to learn from that, to be able to step off an edge or a ledge without thinking about how. I think he has a parachute in a little thing that he's got on his. He just doesn't want to let us know, right?
right.
And I found again and again that the fall was never as hard as I had imagined it would be. If you trust.
There's a famous story about a guy he fell down a rope in a well, and he's holding on for dear life. He made a knot in the end of the rope and held on for dear life, and he's just dying with anxiety. Finally, he just had to give up, and he fell 6 inches.
There you go. Exactly.
Landed on his feet. It's often like that. It's an illusion, a test, but boy, you come out of that with a lesson you will never forget. But again, like you're saying, it's this traumatic experience. Some of it natural process, and some of it in society by the engineers is induced, and that we have to be able to discern between the two. And what's fascinating to me is the discussion we had a few days ago about the traumatization of India. So anyway, finish up your story and then get into that concept, because I think it's just a brilliant perspective.
So, I'll just sort of go quickly over those 5 years, because they were so pivotal, that once I'd given up the shackles of the money game, all these interesting people that lived in a different, in a different zone, started coming into my world. And they really opened my eyes, Marin County, all the old hippies, they were angry. The ones who were true to what was trying to be done, then were really angry with what had happened. And I was just very fortunate. And, there was a friend of mine who actually kept sending me to rents. And I kept saying, no, this can't be. This can't be. The stuff I'm reading there can't be true. It can't be.
That's rents.com, everybody. Great website. Yeah.
Fantastic website, right? Till finally, something says, yes, look, feel it, right?
Yeah.
And I think there were a series of little pivotal things for me. And again, the feminine, always these powerful women who, gave me a lot of love and direction.
Yes.
Took me so I got to be part of this amazing ceremony of psychics and shamans in Marin. And it was a 3-day ceremony, and I was given this really amazing exercise that I've written about in my blog, which I call the first exercise. And I was told that this is the key to the 5th way. And I can share a link to that, and we can put it in the notes, in the liner notes for the show. But doing that exercise, and it's and all my prior life, it almost seemed like prepped me for that. When I was an athlete, a highly injured athlete, and almost semi-professional level in many sports. So I was kind of ready to find a healing modality for the body. And I can share more about that later. But I learned the total criticality and the essentialness and the undeniability of the body's centralness to the whole game.
It's funny. I was an athlete too, and I learned so much. I mean, I'm gifted physically for sports, but the whole concept of competition, and I played college basketball, and I got in trouble with the coach because my hair was too long, and it's stupid things like that. But the whole environment, you grow up in it, from really young, especially in the States. The competition is horrific, but I guess that's worldwide. With soccer, cricket, and so many very passionately followed sports. But I didn't know about you being an athlete. That's interesting.
Yeah. So then, how much sport teaches us about ourselves, right?
Wow.
So So I came into this whole sort of this injured human who's given this gift, and it's been 15 years, and I'm still in recovery, because real recovery takes a long time and micro healing, actually.
Interesting.
So that was one kind of pivotal moment for me, and another one was watching the Chronicles of Narnia. And I really want to give a shout out to Goat Boy. You know that character Goat Boy in the Chronicles of Narnia?
I don't remember.
It's really worth watching how Goat Boy walks, and you can see it on YouTube. And again, a huge insight into why humans have fallen. This is how I saw Goat Boy's walk and the fall of humanity. And I can talk more about that on this time or another show. But this combined with the kind of people I was meeting, we were in the hills of Santa Cruz on this crazy ranch that was designed according to all these amazing architectural principles with 50, crazy innovators and physicists. Just all these experiences that couch surfing with the wild side in San Francisco, led me to. And San Francisco, by the way, is the third city of 7 hills. And people really need to realize why that city is so powerful. The most powerful temple in India, Tirupati, is called the Lord of the 7 Hills. The Vatican is based on the 7 hills of Rome.
That's right.
And San Francisco, which is kind of the headquarters of Satanism, is based on the 7 hills of whatever that mountain range is.
Yeah.
So it took me right down this rabbit hole. It introduced me to all these amazing human beings. And I think if you look back at your history, all of us who've been through these kind of wrenching experiences, you can even see it in your photographs, how it changes you physically, how your life, your large, step life changes change you physically and in every which way. My voice, my language, everything. And in 2006, for some bizarre reason, then the US just said, go home, it spat me out. And I get into a very cushy job and the CEO of a mobile software company, and I did that for a few years, realized the whole thing about that and why the mobile phone world is being pushed as it is. Couldn't deal with the fact that I was making money from it, so I left and dived deeper into this journey of mine, and tremendous insights that I'd love to share as we go on during the show. Good. And I got to deepen my music. I got to write the books. The book that we'll talk about also, my blog, which is how we met. So grateful to the internet for that.
Yes.
So coming back to this topic that we touched upon, that I think is really fascinating also and needs maybe more dissemination, is this thing of post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes.
And India is a perfect case study for how a giant nation was colonized via post-traumatic stress. So, I'll just open my notes here to the appropriate pages so that I don't really miss anything that I wanted to say.
It's interesting because most people don't even know the most basic story of India's, never mind history, but the story of independence. All they know is the picture of Gandhi, and the British were there, and then the British were kicked out, and it was a peaceful revolution, and they have no idea about the partition afterwards, the slaughter that took place, and the effect on the Indian nation, the Indian psyche, and how the British remained. It's very parallel to how the United States is not an independent colony. It is still run by England and the Crown, the City of London and all the other, the key cities. But it's the same story. But people really need to hear this about how India was subdued by this paradigm. It's brilliant the way you've broken it down.
So, the 1 minute history of India is that it was once upon a time, and maybe still remains, one of the wealthiest nations in the world in terms of gold and all kinds of riches, real wealth, money-wise, every which way. Esoterically, just look at the shape of that country. There is something about it that's very human. It's been called the heart of the world, by many people. So clearly, India has been a prize for a long time. If you look at the number of times it's been invaded.
Yes.
And over the years, I think there was this desire to break. And we can name names or not, but for whatever reason, there's something about this landmass and what it resonated needed to be broken. And I think that's been a long-term project of some group of people somewhere in the world. Mm-hmm. And if you look at our world in general, then there's no getting away from it that we live in a dualistic world. I mean, we are dual-brained, left and right-sided, everything. There's no doubt that it is a dual everything, right? All of it.
Yeah.
So similarly, then we can't run away from the fact that there is a dualistic racial spread also, and a belief spread. It has to be. In this world, existence comes through 1, 2, and the neutral, the male, the female, and the neutral, the Father, Son, the Holy Ghost, and all of that. So, sorry, I just lost my train of thought there for a second.
Yeah, dualistic, how it's reflected in, you didn't say racism, but
right.
How it's reflected
in the races, right? So we clearly come from the moon side of things. If you look at all of our esoteric literature and all of our history, and most importantly, Vedic astrology, which was and still remains one of the most holiest and most powerful sciences. Vedic astrology is based on the moon.
Right, which is completely very different from Western astrology. And
absolutely,
how do you discount it, even though you're an adherent to Western astrology? Well, you're going to say the other one doesn't have validity. It challenges your. Well, which one is it?
Or do.
yeah. Which one is it? But that's the mind wanting to classify everything and see it rationally. It's so much deeper than that.
So I think that the whole sun versus moon dichotomy is a very clear dichotomy in the globe, in the world. Let's not even say globe anymore, right? Yeah. And the origins of the moon and all that kind of stuff come into play, and influences of Saturn, and I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. But fundamentally, right, rich cultures like India and China, this has been part of their heritage. This is and it's not to discount it.
Yeah,
it's not to discount solar cultures either. They were the balancing ones. The Incas and all of them were strongly solar, right? While this side was strongly lunar, and so esoterically, I would say that that's part of the battle to take over this space. But clearly, the literal physical takeover began right around the time of the Enlightenment era, actually in the 14 and 1500s, and the formation of the whole Christian reach into the East, with the Jesuits, the Alumbrados, and all of those, systems getting set up to basically go out and set fire to the world. Ignatius Loyola was told to go and set fire to the world. Fires to the minds of men, they say. Their fires are very literal, actually. So the Christian coming into India and the Jesuit coming into India actually began the most drastic changes in Indian society. And at the same time, I think colonialists have always understood that the language of the place needs to be understood and then destroyed. And then therefore with the language goes the society, goes the system of education, because the two are intrinsically linked. So you can look at the colonialization of any country or people by how first language is taken over, and then education, and then society. And a very simple sort of sign for all of India to see that we are not free is that our prime language of money, commerce, life, more and more so, is English. It is
Yes.
the only country. It is the only country that has given up its language to the conquistadores, right?
I was just telling somebody that today. So I said signs are not only in Hindi, which is the sort of the unifying language, while each state has its own language, but they're in Hindi and English. So,
Yes.
I mean, that was a surprise to me, but, you know, I wasn't quite awake when I was there in the 70s, but
And then you
it surprise anybody.
And you were here in the 70s, and now it's almost 80% in English. Everywhere you go, it's all English. And the guy who drives my taxi, the proudest thing he can tell me is that his child is in an English medium school. That he's making enough money to finally put his child into an English medium training ground for more slaves to the debt system that is raining down on this country right now. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
That's okay.
So,
yeah,
so
it's good.
So
it's all good.
Basically, from the late 1800s to the early 1900s, and I'm talking about in the years, not the century, you know, everything went into overdrive, and they sent Gandhi, who was clearly British educated and trained, both in South Africa and a barrister from, you know, the Inns of Court in London. It's kind of hard to say that this man came as the savior of India, you know.
Yeah.
He's called the father of the nation.
Yeah.
And they say you're known by the fruits. A tree is known by the fruits it spawns. And I have to say, if that's our father, then he spawned a really sad fruit.
Yeah.
Beautiful as this nation is, as any fundamental place in people are, as a functioning country, we have such huge problems. And you know, you really go back to everybody that ran our independence movement, and they all came from the same little barrister school in the city of London.
It sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? It was the same with the founding fathers in the US too. Only thing is, most of them came from Paris, or they were the Hellraisers in London, right? These are all the same group of people.
Exactly.
India's first president was a Freemason. I mean, how much further do you have to go than to understand that this is a manufactured reality for India? Swami Vivekanand, who, you know, went to the World Religions Congress in Chicago and became this kind of spokesperson, Vivekanand.
Yeah.
Freemason, proudly on the Indian Freemasonry side. Right? So basically...
Yeah, when they see the famous meeting in Yalta between Churchill, Stalin, and FDR, they were all 33-degree Freemasons.
Freemasons.
And good buds. They were having shaking hands, smoking cigars.
They were laughing. Exactly.
They were laughing, drinking whiskey. Now let's chop up the world, shall we?
Yes,
Nothing fishy going on here.
Right. And you know, and it was not just India. All of it happened in parallel once 1901 turned around. I think that was a very pivotal year. They had done their first big financial crash in 1894. You know, and like we discussed last time, in 1903, the Rockefeller Foundation for Education had been set up. You know, 1907, the next financial crisis. Then, of course, 1910, and the famous meeting at which island was it?
Jekyll Island?
Jekyll and Hyde Island, shall we say?
Yeah, I think
right?
that was... Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
1910, right? 1913, the formation of the Fed. 1914, World War I. All of this has great parallels in India, because what they were doing was raping India for its money. And Gandhi, the pacifist, was telling Indian soldiers to go fight for the British. This very strange dichotomy that nobody talks about, you know?
Yeah,
over
or
150,
just take it.
Over 150,000 Indians died in World War I. And over 250,000 Indians died in World War II. And there was this.
Yeah, you don't hear that.
Hears about
anywhere. No.
Yes. And the great famine of Bengal, you know, where they were using they were taking all the rice and wheat grown to feed the war effort. And any spare land they were using to force these poor farmers to grow opium to feed their China opium trade. I mean, they had, once they'd infiltrated all the courts in India, they still hadn't got them all, but they'd infiltrated them enough, that then they started moving all the gold out. And then when you create this literal famine, and then they started siphoning up all the gold, and they moved tons and tons of gold from India to the UK to pay off the UK's First World War I debts and the great 1930 bankruptcy that nobody talks about that the UK declared. And they got out of that with Indian gold. And in spite of that, India remains at 50,000 tons or whatever they say, the largest coal holding country in the world.
Yeah.
So, they really went hammer and tongs.
Yes.
Till
Yes.
1945.
Yes.
And now, to come to this very interesting thing about post-traumatic stress and colonialization. So I think as long as there's been pain and trauma, people have understood that is the method of control.
Yes.
That pain and trauma create fear, and fear is control, right? And we've definitely seen a monarchy do this over so many monarchies over time, and then the most famous examples in this last century being, let's say, China and Pol Pot, in Cambodia, but using trauma as a method of control. And then religion, of course. I mean, what to say then of the church? Mastering trauma.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, you're nailing it.
I mean,
the subject is so important because people's lives are often in reaction to trauma.
Yes.
But when they realize that engineers have fabricated group trauma in order to produce a desired effect, this is a big part of waking up. This is a bigger conspiracy than just the political stuff. It is a
way bigger.
It shows it's a spiritual conspiracy. It's a war on our consciousness. and the way you identify it. I'll tell you what, anybody that thinks they can listen to Deepak Chopra and learn something, they need to get an email that says, Vivek is coming your way. He'll help you out of this mess. Stop listening to New Age bullshit and get the truth. Sorry.
I thought you were going to say an enema from Vivek, which is what most people need. But so getting back to this method of colonialization. So once it was clear that trauma causes permanent control dynamics in the traumatizer's hands, then they went after the men. And they started, and men in the colonial setting, Zen, are very easily and deeply traumatized because the pyramid is made very sharp for the colonial population. You have a very few people at the top that you teach your language, and you make sure that they love your language and your ways more than they love their own people. And it's very easy to find these kind of malcontents in every society, and often brilliant malcontents in every society, right?
Yeah.
And you find these people at the top, and normally, unfortunately, malcontents tend to be very psychopathic. So they find these psychopathic malcontents to put at the top, and then they start to disseminate that control and that pressure down society. And then men in a colonial society anyway are always looking over their backs, because you could be asked for your papers, you could just be asked what you're doing, you could just have some police guy come and swing a stick to your head for no reason because you didn't look right, say something in English, it didn't matter, right? So the man outside was like this, cowered down and cowered down all the time. So he came back home and became a monster.
Yeah.
And then sat on his...
I'm sorry, finish your thought. I'm going to add something. I was just going to say, a big part of this is, regimentation. That word came to me. Things get regimented. You talk about the sharp point, order, very British. Uniforms for children, uniforms for adults.
Exactly.
But regiment, you think about the first part is there's also a regiment of an army, and you need to be regimented. But also, reg is from regis, which means king. So it's all going back.
And ment is from mind.
Yeah, that's right. So
Ment is mind.
The king is your mind. That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Which reminds me too.
Government.
That's right. Just another thought I wanted to share. But you were talking about India. It's been considered the jewel to these people to have control over India. But literally, the biggest diamond of the British crown is called the Kohinoor diamond, which was mined from India and stolen, like all the other gems and beautiful stuff, taken right off the Taj Mahal and everything else. But they know the place of India. And what's interesting, just recently, geopolitically, they're making big overtures. I mean, they're already doing it with the way the Indian government's going, just New World Order and GMO and just ridiculous. Ridiculous. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. They think they can get away with it without anybody saying anything. But anyway, they're at it again. It's going to become more and more. They want to work, they want to get Pakistan flared up, get a conflict going, and it's.
But I think another very interesting thing to think about for India, and many Indians don't like to hear this, is that India should never have been a nation, because a true nation, a true society is defined by language. Zen. There's no doubt about it. Language is the basis of society. Language is the basis of culture, right?
Yes,
and
that's right.
It is the natural border. All these straight line borders are colonial borders, and if you look at them, they drive them through linguistic and religious centers and hearts to put people on, opposite sides of the coin, which is how they created the great, partition violence that they did in India as they left India. They left one cut on our northwestern side, and they left this huge cut on our northeastern side, and said all the Muslims go there. And then they chopped Kashmir, which was like this golden heart of Indian Hinduism, Tantrism, Shaivism, very close to, the whole center of Tibet and Bon Buddhism. And these were the hearts of the old ways.
Yes.
So they all had to be destroyed and kept in permanent strife.
Yes.
And interestingly, Kashmir is also the 33rd parallel, which these people understand very well. Which is why Kashmir is still being permanently in conflict.
Yes.
Right? So people need to understand that this is how control is done.
Yes.
This is how you can keep saying, I understand. No, it's very hard to say, I understand. Which I understand, first of all. We've been split into so many eyes, all of us. Through this post-traumatic, all this MK Ultra kind of programming, Zen, people talk about it. It's actually out in the open.
It is, and it's multiple personality fracturing. People are not one person. One guy goes to see his friends, he's one person. He goes to work, he's another. He watches the football game, he's another. They don't realize it. They've been fractured. Their personalities are screwed up, and they too have been programmed to respond in different alters. It's pretty freaky.
Exactly. Very interesting. So now, again, coming back to post-traumatic stress and why these controllers, engineers consider this to be so core, is because with repeated post-traumatic stress, and especially if you can do it from early childhood, a person loses their fight or flight capabilities.
Yes, this is heavy stuff.
Most of this kind of stress comes in situations of violence of one sort or another, where the person on whom the violence is being visited has no choice or no ability to fight. And this is done to women and children. I mean, even in the great industrial revolution, who did they catch and traumatize? Who did they put in factories, from 7 in the morning to 7 at night? It's the women and children.
That's right. Hey, Vivek, 1 second. I've got to go do something. Something happening with the dog. Keep talking. I can hear you. And all right. Keep going, okay?
Well, I can have a sip of my Nimbu Pani and wait. I can also refer to my notes a little bit. But yeah, so once post-traumatic stress is induced and this fracturing of the personality, but even more importantly, the loss of core limbic function, limbic brain function. So the limbic brain, which is called our core brain or our first brain, is the one that makes us look and understand and realize what danger is and then run away from it. I mean, every animal has such a beautiful threaded existence with nature is because this limbic brain is alive. It has a sixth sense, right, which tells it, you can smell a fruit or a flower and say, I should eat this, I shouldn't eat this.
Yes.
Now look at human beings poisoning ourselves every day in so many ways.
We can't tell.
This speaks of the destruction of the limbic brain through post-traumatic stress. So basically you brought this creature to a place where he doesn't even know what is good or bad for him anymore.
So true. You know, if you put a rat next to GMO corn or natural corn, it will not touch the GMO corn. So there is a way to sense it, and we have been deprived of it. That's very profound.
I mean, if you look at animals, they know what to eat to heal themselves. The dog knows to eat grass when its stomach is upset, to just go and spit it out. And deer learn how to go and lick salt when they need it at strange places, or you know, come under the pine tree on the right time in Christmas to get high when they need their insights, right? I mean, these animals and they really understand nature, right? And the core thing is, if you look at a human, most humans without training can't look at two mushrooms, for example, which is such a powerful entity again. And then we can do a whole show about mushrooms someday. I think you won't understand.
You know, the most amazing thing to me, and I think of this all the time, is the mycelium.
Yes.
Underneath this rich soil is this connected network of fungi that's called mycelium. And they are absolutely, they're interconnected, and you'll see different varieties come up. But fungus also cures radioactivity. So there's so many fascinating things. And when you're growing up, you go, ooh, a mushroom, and you think of an old dead tree, and this is ugly and this kind of stuff. Without, you know, it just shows our upbringing is so screwed up.
Right.
We'll have to get into all this.
Right, but if you look at humanity, I mean, I can't go and smell two mushrooms and tell me whether one is good for me or not. I have to be told that you have to look at this and look at the striations. I can't look at a snake and know if it's poisonous or not. I'll react just fundamentally out of fear to a snake, because nothing tells me ahead of time, you know, whether I should be afraid of this creature or not. I think nature is so intelligent and beautifully done that way. And I think it's taken centuries of beating down on humanity everywhere, through religion and through this linguistic twisting and through monetary upheavals and now through such traumatic living conditions. And again, coming to the India stories then, I mean, if you look at India from the 70s, it wasn't evolved or developed, but it was beautiful. The roads were empty. You know, the houses were far away, but there was space and there was air and there was simplicity. Now we've been civilized, and the same city is not livable anymore. And people should really pay attention to words again. I mean, what is civilization and what is civil works? Civil works are called bridge building, laying these horrible, huge pipes to carry your combined sewage, living in buildings that, you know, pump your sewage right next to your bedroom, you know, destroying all principles of healthy living. So
civil war. But I'm sure that we've got to find the Latin or Greek root, because I'm thinking of incision. If it has something to do with cutting versus we're told it's something cohesive, it probably means the opposite, like so many words when you break them down.
Absolutely. In fact, for example, if you go to the Old Testament, to cleave means to cling. To cleave to your God means to cling to your God. And to cleave means to cut. A cleaver is a large chopper.
That's right. A man shall cleave to his wife. He's not
Yes.
cutting her up. He's not cutting her up.
Exactly, right?
Yes.
So this whole drama with language, and we can really dive into that.
Yeah.
I mean, in India, clearly the language colonization is where they left their biggest marks there.
That's right. It's so profound.
When you rip the tongue out of a culture, and I see it all the time around me today. I saw it I didn't see it when I was leaving, sorry. I was part of the frustrated lot that wanted to westernize really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And then it took me going there and living this very fascinating 12-year time in the US and watching the upheaval of that society to really understand why maybe mimicking it is not a good idea at the level that we are seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, and again, back to the India story, that they are repeating this entire thing here. And it's almost like people are not even willing to look at the recent history in the West and say maybe there's a lesson to be learned there, or something to be seen. Did feminism work in the West? Why was the first liberation movement of women called the suffrage movement? Why would the word suffering, the suffering of the ages, suffer age, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How many people know that the suffragettes were the biggest draft pushers in World War I and II? And it's the reason that they were given suffrage. This was the deal they made, so they would send their sons off to war.
They had to earn it.
They had to earn it by sending their sons off to war and blood sacrifice. This is where, and blood sacrifice, and you come to the hatred of menstruation in the modern woman. These are all related. These are all, the fact. Again, and let's jump topics here. Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right.
So a woman can put a chlorine bleached tampon in the center of her creation and think that will do nothing to her essential feminine.
Or take birth control pills like they're candy.
Exactly.
This is really screwing people up. Or have an abortion like it's blowing your nose. And we know it's no joke, because abortion really mess with these poor women who've had them done. But it's
the ritualistic killing of the firstborn, right? Abortion. All of these things.
That's right.
So these are more signs. Or the eating of fast food. When you're told again and again, and everywhere you can see you're being told this is bad for you, bad for you, bad for you. And yet people can't stop themselves from going and eating a bad fast food burger or whatever. And I don't know about your leaning with vegetarianism and non-vegetarianism, but it's very clear that even if it was okay for a time, and today with CJD and mad cow and the birds dying and the pigs dying, and the animal kingdom is trying to tell you something like, dude, stop, it's okay. Look around. Elephants eat grass. They have essentially the same digestive system as you.
Look at our teeth. We're not designed to eat meat.
Exactly.
By the way, I have been vegetarian for 6 years.
Very good. Very good.
It's great. It's great when you get into it. And I did it because I was challenged by somebody I really respect. Just do it for a few weeks and see how you feel.
Yes.
And it so changed my vibration. And I didn't do it for all the obvious ethical reasons, which later come because your vibration starts to resonate with what you're participating in.
Yes.
And now, if anybody dares to watch what happens to chickens or young cows that are taken from their mothers, what happens to the mother? Never mind the slaughtering and the horrific drugging. It is how we can participate in that and not take on the vibrational baggage. Are you kidding? Whatever we're part of, we're picking up the vibration, and it's a big part, I think, of waking up. At least I challenge people, will try it. See if you don't have a change. Skip all the stuff that you think is, you don't, it's too much mental stuff. It's fine. Just try it and see about the change. And then what happens, you start to realize you can almost hear the lowing of the animals and the weeping and the suffering. It hit me, came around the back way, but It's a very, very important part of somebody's
know,
process, I think, personally.
yes, and I can say it with deep conviction, Zen, and I've eaten meat earlier in my life also.
Hmm.
That that is one of the largest steps that you can take in so many ways
Hmm.
to heal thyself. And look at these words again, Zen. If you write down heal thyself, heal thy is healthy. They're telling you in the words, heal thyself is the healthy self, you know, and don't get
Beautiful.
doctored. Don't get doctored. I mean, look at the words again. If I tell you I'm going to take you to a doctor, you'll say yes. If I tell you I'm going to give you a doctor drink, you'll say no.
That's right.
If I tell you
When you cut off a dog's tail, they say they dock the tail.
the doc, the tail, right? The
Yeah.
doctor, and we know the whole story about the doc and the birthing and all of that, right? So getting back into the word game again.
For anybody who doesn't understand, that has to do with maritime law. So be sure to research that, and that it's a very important subject. I'm sorry,
Right.
for somebody
Right.
going. This is great.
So, and then they tell you that it's called an animal, animal, a mal or a deficient animus. That's where the word animal comes from. Like malpractice and mal this and mal that. This is an animal. And you have to realize the larger picture of the evolutionary game that is going on over here. That the animal's spine is horizontal and parallel to the earth for a reason, and they have a charge and a specific different way of being. But they process for us, with their manure and things that can grow the food that we eat then with our vertical spine. It is such a key part of the balance of nature. We were meant to be their caretakers then. We were meant to be the enlightened balancers. And that maybe if there was ever violence, that we were the ones who were probably meant to go there and to just, that maybe the lion did lie with the lamb. And a very easy way to think about this. You can come to this through meditation, quietening your mind. Is that all of us would love it if we went out into nature and a bird came and sat on our shoulder, or a deer walked up to us. Now, who do they go and sit on? A tree. Who do they walk up close to? A tree. What does a tree represent? It's a living being, but it is zero threat. A tree sends out no threat perception or fear perception to the world, right? Similarly, us, if we were to calm down with the way we grasp out at nature without understanding it, etc., that nature would come to us by itself. And I think this calming way, this is why the stories of all the wise men always had some animal story about them, how animals came to them, how they heal animals, right?
Native cultures, even the language of native cultures. Let's take the North and South America. It's guttural, it's vibrational, and all the imagery is animals, waterfalls. As the grass grows, my daughter, you too shall be tall like your sister, like your sister. It is all laden with imagery that manifests connectivity. And like you were saying, people now living in cities, and I mean, how much of the world is paved? I'm looking for a statistic. How much of the world is paved or covered in housing that has just been killed? I mean, it's been blocked off. Very similar to your brilliant article about damming. You beat me on that one, because I've had an article in the works for the longest time. What's been stopping the rivers, and what effect does that have, not only spiritually and morphically, but electromagnetically, and the flow of water, and obviously with the flow of nature and naturalness. But these dams, I mean,
I'd love to share that. For those who missed it, I think it was one of the most interesting insights I had over my blogging years. Then was the story of denial.
Tell the story of denial. This is amazing. Denial.
Denial, right? The world is in denial about the Nile. But 1894 was the first time the Nile was dammed. And 1894 was the first great financial crisis in the West. 1907 to 1910 was the first buttressing of, or the raising of the height of the first dam. And that was the second great financial crisis. 1929 to 1933 was the final raising of the Aswan Dam. I mean, it doesn't get more clear than that. Rivers represent liquidity. The Nile was the original river.
29 to 33, everybody, was the Great Depression.
Was the Great Depression.
Yes.
And what was the Great Depression about? It was about the shutting off of the liquidity.
That's
Bankers forced liquidity. Bankers bank money. The flow, the currency of money, right?
Yeah. So, the river bank.
The river bank, right? So look at this, that again, if you take it to the esoteric space, that somebody understood that the damming of the Nile would cause this first, I mean, correlation, causation, come on, not thrice, not to the dam, and not to the largest liquidity crisis the world had ever seen.
It so reveals to anybody who's really, open heart perceptive about these greater concepts and trends, the occult nature of the world we're in, whether you attribute it to bankers being aware of damming the Nile on the same day, something was aware. Something was aware, and you call it, I don't care if it's archons or Wetiko or what have you, the dynamics of these other contrarian dynamics that we're up against have these understandings and capabilities, and they're intertwined. We can read those. We are more conscious than they. We have infinite power, infinite insight available to us. So when someone like you, Vivek, comes up with this realization and matches these up, or other researchers connect the dots on something else, I just, like you, I'm just awed.
Me too. I love it.
It opens more windows and doors. You just go, bring it on, and it liberates you, because although it's awesomely dark, it's also awesomely transparent.
Absolutely.
It only has power when we're in darkness about it, So that's what's beautiful. And I just love your perspective and the way you approach information and stuff. I mean, I'm that sort of insatiable soul like you are.
I can't
get enough because of the love and the light and the empowerment that it brings, and we can share with others. Yes. So anyway, that's a little sidetrack, but this revelation you got is just brilliant.
And very interesting, like we talked last time too, that in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, where when your soul goes to the chamber of Maat and it's weighed against a feather, you have to make 42 pronouncements. And the 12th pronouncement is that in my lifetime, I never dammed the flow of running water. I mean, so clearly from back when, it has been and you look at rivers, they've been the basis of all civilization. All great civilization have grown. They're so allegorically representative of life, the water cycle, purity, carrying riches, giving them without, how would a river pays it forward, Zen? It clears its way, it oxbows, it curves, it's showing you that this is the flow. Music parallels rivers.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And look at the word damn. I mean, damn you.
Yeah.
Damn it. Damn your ass. It's so revealing. But the thing about, look at the rivers now. I mean, what does fracking do? They're not only going for surface rivers and the ocean for pollution and contamination, but underground, our water supply. Now, thankfully, the earth has a lot more water than people think.
There's a deeper level.
It will take an awful lot to put Earth out of action. Gaia Sophia is very powerful. And like George Carlin said, she'll shake us off like a bad case of fleas if she has to. But although it's not us, it's these other dark forces causing the damage. But we are responsible because we're falling for it. But this whole idea of water that you brought up earlier as well, it's the fact that they're polluting it and we're trying to clean it. I just read an article today that by 2030 or 2050, more than half the ocean will be plastic. Now, I don't know if that's true, but that's the trend. It's like 1 in 2 children will be autistic by 2030. these are, I think we're being given a little message here to kind of get drastic. At the very least, each individual should stop any nonsense they're doing and get serious about this revolution that's going on, to do what each of them are called to do, which is why what that book that You Are the Awakening is all about. It's an individual choice. We don't have to carry the whole world, but we've got to understand these bigger concepts. And the way you're explaining this is just brilliant. I'm so glad we got to do this, brother.
Absolutely. So, if we can continue then.
Yeah, please.
So so I don't buy this information overload thing, Zen, for example. I think this is the nature of the Aquarian time, that it's revelation, right?
Yeah.
Of course, there are fountains of information opening up and being presented to us. And
I agree.
We need to be large enough. We've been taught that our mind can only process a little bit of information. Oh, don't worry, don't confuse yourselves. That's the control mind saying, just leave it to us. We'll figure it out. And I think we are much, much bigger than that. And I think we have very fine and refined senses of discernment. Yeah. If we allow ourselves to be calm and think, to say, no, this is not true. Yes, this is true. That vibration in our gut that tells us. So don't be afraid of drinking from the fountain because it's being presented to us. It is the apocalypse, and that's another very interesting word. I think that many people maybe don't know. I think maybe a lot of your listenership will know, but it's apocalypso. Apo meaning the opposite, and calypso is the famous, from Jason and the Argonauts. The story. Yeah, Jason and the Argonauts. Calypso was the one that drew with her siren song. Drew him to the island.
Oh, the sirens.
Yes, the sirens, exactly.
Yes. Interesting, right? Yeah.
And she's called the hider, or the veiler. She's called the one with the 7 veils. So apocalypso is the unveiling.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, the unveiling, right? So we can't be afraid of what if we have not seen something forever or for a long time, or is lost in our genetic memory. Of course, it will be new for us. And so again, you come into this languaging. People have said, "What's your mindset?" Don't have a mindset. This is not a time for a mindset, because you're going to be challenged again and again and again, because the revelation is non-stop.
That's right. Even if people try to solidify against this, it's not going to work. The disillusion vibrationally that's happening, even though people with their egos or whatever are trying to hold it up, it's crumbling. It's like the walls of Jericho. They're coming down, and
are coming down. Exactly.
If people are paddling, they'll catch the wave. If they're just standing there, they're going to get crushed by it. So, but either way, they're going to see it. It's going to be full frontal. These things are coming out. Don't be surprised, but lean into it, connect the dots, and it's a fun ride. And I agree with you about information, because even though it needs to be discerned and there's a lot of contention and confusion right now, I don't think there's that much in the alternative world, so-called. I see technology as our friend. Now, obviously, they're trying to make it, through transhumanism, something to control us. But that's been our challenge all along. You could say that about automobiles. You could say that about the telephone, the old telephone. You could say it about television. And it's true if we let them control us through it. If we use these media for our purposes, we're money ahead. It's like saying there's battleships on the river, don't paddle. Well, baloney, that's the river. I gotta go fishing. So, it's I don't know. There's a way to look at this that's more empowering. And
I completely hear you. Yeah, we used to, when we were coming into our awakening process in the Bay Area, we were some friends of ours and me, and we were all experimenting, and we were all doing very difficult practices and exercises and all of that. We would talk about this, that if there is a wave coming, I don't want to run for the hills. I want to stand and face it. Let the churn, if it's to take you up, it'll take you up. If it's to take you down, it'll take you down. But if you're with it, if you're with it, it'll take you to where you're meant to go with it.
Yeah, and if you fear it, you're on the wrong footing altogether.
Absolutely, and I'd love to share at this point then two books that really changed my life, and I'd love to hear about your books, because clearly, given how well you write and your insights, I imagine that reading has been a big part of your life. I'd love to hear which books have really shaken your perspective. But I just want to share mine. I'll give you a chance to think about that for a second. But 3 books that I think everybody should read, and they're discounted as pop philosophy, but they're Jonathan Livingston Seagull, Illusions, and The Alchemist.
What was the second one?
Illusions.
Delusions.
Illusion. No,
Who's
Illusions. Same, Jonathan, Richard Bach. Same guy who wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
Okay. Cool.
Hey, can I just take a call really quick, like for a second?
Yeah,
just
for
one
sure.
second.
Go ahead.
Just one. Dikla?
Well, everybody, as you can tell, Vivek is one remarkable man. I'm honored to know him. He's so fun to talk to. We've had several long Skype conversations leading up to this, and he's a wealth of insight and information, as you can tell. And this is the kind of perspective, this insightful perspective that he brings, that I consider the most important elements of call it the awakening, this finding our true selves and the truth about the nature around us, but in an enlightening and an empowering way, and insightful and even fun. It should be. If somebody comes at you with gloom and doom and it's like this, and you're getting that kind of vibe off it, well, maybe you ought to back off and just listen to something more inspiring and empowering, which insight and awareness, when they're true, you know it in your heart. There's this resonance. That's the most important regulator.
Absolutely.
Like Vivek was saying. Anyway, brother, good to have you back. Hope everything's under control.
All good. So I would really love to touch upon language. I'd really love to touch upon language for like a concentrated few minutes.
Yeah.
Because I think even today, even after all the revelations by these amazing people like Santos Bonacci and Sevan Bomar, and if we go back to our old friend that we spoke about the other day,
Jordan Maxwell,
all of these people came in with some stunning insights about language. But interestingly enough, I think all of us were waking up at the same time to these things, 2006, 2007. It was in the air. There was something in the air that gave people this large breakthrough understanding that something is new. So I want to really tell people that every time you hear this, it's very easy to dismiss as, it's just wordplay and, words are not that important. And come on, get beyond words. But people really need to understand that this world is controlled by words. And in fact, some of the deepest religious and spiritual ways will tell you that this world was created by words.
In the beginning was the word. Even if you call it sound, so are words.
The fact that is that it says word.
Yeah.
And it says that the word was with God and the word was God. That means the word is being given equal prominence or equal position to whatever this God, whoever or whatever this God person was.
Yeah, that's right. And actually the whole Bible, having been a student of it for a long time, reaffirms the placement of the word as the absolute and equivalent of this God concept. Obviously, it's not the Godhead in this kind of imagery stuff, but yes, exactly right.
Right. So first there was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. And in the Hindu pantheon, Brahma spoke the world into existence. And there you have Om, this sound Om that has been in existence and resonance from goodness knows when, and I think a long time ago. But so very important to see that something is telling us that language is all important. And if you look at our existences, we have this hardware, which is the body, This firmware, that is the brain, is clearly malleable, programmable, changeable, influenceable. And the software, that is the language. Without language, the software doesn't run. So then,
okay, I'm laughing because I was just imagining, like you're saying, how important language is, and we need to understand it and its significance. I was imagining two fish talking underwater, and they're very smart and intelligent and they're philosophical, and they're going, I'm getting the feeling that this water stuff is really important to our existence.
Exactly.
Because they take it for granted, just like, we take air or language. Oh, it's just language. Everybody uses that. What do you mean? But it's that profound, no?
I mean, if you look at the word meaning, how mean, what a mean word meaning is. It has to be. It's got mean in the beginning.
Yeah.
And it also means average, which is a terrible way to be, they tell us. Don't be average.
Yeah.
So
Brilliant.
So let's talk about duality. Duality in our world is expressed as left and right in the English-speaking world. And I can tell people that we can point them to fantastic lecturers with knowledge far beyond what I have in etymology. That these are very key directions to take your thinking mind in terms of language into, right? But let's take duality and sorry, what I was trying to say there was that even other languages have been similarly contorted and distorted. It's not just English.
Yes, of course.
It's been done to every language, right? So let's talk about.
Keep going. I'm gonna go off camera. The dog needs something, but I'm listening, and we're still going. So keep talking.
Can I pause? Can I pause because it's a little odd for me to talk to an empty screen, and then can it be edited out?
Oh, you should have done them. I had to do my whole first show by myself. That was weird.
Well, here we go then.
No.
I'll go.
Okay, yeah. I'm really close by. I just got something right here.
To go. Absolutely. So, super. Here we go. So basically, the question about language being as key as it is very, very clearly understood when we look at how duality is fundamentally expressed in our world, right and left. And let's stick with English because this entire interview is in English, and therefore everybody listening to this understands English really well. Is that those letters, right and left, R and L, need to be paid very close attention to. So you look at R, and it's where the right things come from, and it has no right angle in it. So just visualize the letter R, and you see there's no right angle in R, but it's the right thing, R. Left, on the other hand, is the perfect right angle. The L, the set square, 90 degrees. That's very strange that the core letter R and L actually doesn't have the core angle. And we'll come to the importance of angle as we go down this little notes that I'm talking about. And this whole desire to push us to the right. 97 or 95% of the world is right-handed. How odd is that in a normally Gaussianly distributed world where everything comes out to an average? Right-handedness is way off on the other side. And why is it right ahead and left behind? And you're right. So somebody's trying to tell us that being right is right and being left, and Zen, as we discussed that day, is sinister in Latin.
That's
and
right.
Therefore, obviously very, very wrong. So I was listening to Sevan Bomar one day, and he was talking about, he's done some fantastic work on etymology.
Oh, he's amazing. I'd love to have him on the show. I consider him one of the absolute best.
Absolutely. In fact, let's try to make this happen. We should really try to make that happen. I would love to have a three-way with Sevan, you and myself.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
So I was listening to him talk, and he's talking about the word coin, C-O-I-N, and how that comes from Cohen, C-O-H-E-N, Cohen, and Koan, And all of these words, these Hebrew words that actually represent king or kingliness, right? So C-O-W-N, and please draw that visually in your head. C-O-W-N is king. Now, this very interesting thing to think about kingship, and by the way, kingship is still very much extant in the world. We have pretend politicians, but they all behave like kings too. So you look at kings.
And often from regal bloodlines.
Absolutely. So you look at all courts, and all courts had a jester. And if you look at today's courts, and they have the court jesters, I mean, John Stewart was the court jester for the American government.
Right.
Right? Literally, I mean, he's not the only one, but he was the one people saw every day making fun of the establishment.
Yeah, and relieving the angst, relieving the questions in an innocuous way where everybody just shut up and go home laughing.
Exactly, right? So every king knew, for some very interesting and strong reason, that he could never say anything to the jester. The jester could make fun of him, could make fun of his masculinity, his virility, his intelligence, his strength, and yet everybody had to laugh. So you look at the word C-O-W-N, and you add an R at the second letter, and you get a crown, and you add an L as the second letter, and you get the clown. So the crown and the clown are the right and the left hands of the monarchy.
Amazing.
The monarch is held up by the right crown and the left clown. And this is how deeply these words have been created,
yes,
and manufactured.
Yes.
Put into words, right?
And they know our hardware, because really the right and left brain are, in a way, your creative side is the clown and your logistic side is the crown. Same duality. They're playing into our receivers and adulterating them with polluted information.
Precisely. So their whole idea is cognitive dissonance. The more cognitively dissonant the person is, the more easily, traumatizable, suggestible, and all of those things, right? So look again. So you can look at this L and R, left and right duality thing in so many words. You look at the word cash. It's a dirty word, cash, and it gives you crash and clash. You look at the word fail, and it gives you frail and flail. Right? You look at the word law, and law is stricture. And you look at the word raw, and raw is the complete lack of stricture. Right? So over and over, they're trying to tell us, and legends, again, beautiful legends. What do the legends tell us? So the Arthurian legend says that there was a spell, and look at that again. All words are spelled. We spell words. Again, they're trying to tell you that words are spells. Right?
That's right.
So there was a spell, and then whoever could break that spell of drawing the sword from the stone that Merlin had put in would get the sword and therefore the power.
That's right. That's right.
If you remove the S, you get that he took the word from the tone. Right?
People are not going to come away from this the same, Vivek. They're going to come away going, and they'll start to see words like they never saw before.
I hope if that's the one thing that they take, because language needs to be deconstructed.
Yes. Yes.
We all need to come to our own deepest understanding of what language is.
And be willing and be willing to analyze it on the fly. Like you said, other languages. In Spanish, the word for work is trabajo.
Trabajo, yes.
Trabajo, which is T-R-A, and then bajo, which is tra, which is to do, or from action. Bajo means under. It means down. So I'm going to work is instantly a bummer. Voy para trabajo. If they had a different word, their day would be brighter. Instead it suppresses them immediately.
Then I have to jump in here. I have to jump in here because you see, similar in English, immediate parallel. When you start a new company, they say, good luck for your new endeavor. End ever? Right? Or the other word is undertaking.
Yeah.
The other word is undertaking. You either start an end ever or an undertaking.
Or even the word awakening. Who wants to go to awake? That's
exactly.
That's a funeral. That's a total bastardization. That doesn't mean you have to be under the spell of their intention.
Precisely.
But this is the subliminal. It's very much like neuro-linguistic programming, which I'm writing something about now. But it's the use of language, not only language, but rhythm and vibration. If you watch any newscaster, today on the news there was a conflict and a lot of people were stirred up by, you'll hear the emphasis, it's obvious stuff, but it's the less obvious. It's the actual words, the rhythm, the intonation. It's
exactly.
We are in a vibrational force field, and these people are speaking. It's almost like you're underwater. Same analogy. And they're kinds of bubbles, and we need to discern. That's stinky bubbles. I'm not going to pop that one. That's not going to be good. We'll be able to discern what's real information, what isn't, and that's where the heart comes in. But please continue. These are just fascinating.
So, exactly just like you were saying. So the spell needs to be broken.
Yes.
Right? Now, this is what extracting the stone from the word, the word from the tone broke the spell.
Yeah, wow.
Now here is a Zen special, first time in the world, revelation Zen. Now you carry the same thing and you understand that the Queen of England is crowned on the stone of scone, which is the tone of the cone. These people know these things.
That's right.
It's the tone of the cone. Like earlier it was the word from the tone. Now the tone from the cone. And we all know the importance of the cone. Merlin wore a conical cap. The dunce cap was a cone. Our whole existence is conical energy spiraling everywhere, right?
Wow.
Rules because she was crowned, because she and her masters and her Church of England and all of those people, they knew how to draw the tone from the cone, from the stone of scone.
That's amazing. And the cone is a spinning pyramid. You spin a pyramid, you're going to get a cone.
Yes, absolutely. Right? And by the way, cone also sounds like a cone, which is a king again. So again, they've trapped us in the wordplay.
Right.
Look at that. So it's so hard to deny such beautiful hints left for us.
Yes.
This so then very interesting. And again, if I can take you on a tangent, Zen, I'll take you on a beautiful tangent from here, right?
Yeah.
So the tone from the cone. What does that tell you about laughter and slaughter? Because slaughter is laughter. And laughter is the key control mechanism for creating cognitive dissonance. A joke teller makes you laugh by setting you up with your logical mind and then destroying that logical mind thing with a right brain twist that leaves your brain cognitively dissonate, and that's why you laugh.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at all the great stories and all the great tales from the past, nobody laughs except the wicked ones.
Yeah, that's right.
It's always the cackle, everybody smiled. And there were always these warm expressions of happiness, but there was no laughter. Mm-hmm. And if you want to look at PTSD again, what have they done with sitcoms? From the beginning, you had a laugh track, You had a laugh track that made you laugh, whether you liked it or not. You were being programmed to laugh. Laughter causes cognitive dissonance because that's the entire base. It's a release of energy.
Right.
Right?
Takes down your defense
Yes,
mechanism.
exactly. Oh, I couldn't deal with that logical impossibility. I'm going to laugh it out.
Yeah.
Right? It's a loss of energy.
Yeah.
So, slaughter, laughter. So, with all this laughter, why stand-up comedy suddenly? Everywhere you see stand-up comedy, stand-up comedy, stand-up. I call them stand-up tragedies. Because, we discussed the role of the comedian and what they're really doing and what.
Yeah.
Plus, this laughter leaving people cognitively dissonate, right?
Yeah. Speaking of interesting words, I don't mean to throw you off track, but as you were speaking, you mentioned the word understanding.
Exactly.
I mean, in other words, I can only get something if I stand under you and honor you as greater than me. When it comes to truth, okay, fine. It is in a way greater, but it's not. I'm part of it. So it's all about submission, subduction of the self. Do you understand?
Yes.
It's like pounding somebody on the head with their fist. You understand?
Literally.
Yeah. Amazing.
Exactly.
Huh?
Which is why again I love Sevan's coining of inner standing. I love the word inner standing.
That's right.
It really speaks. So so again, not to lose the thread, I wanted to make this other great revelation.
Sorry. Yeah.
Revelation number 2. Revelation number 1 was the stone of scone.
Right.
Revelation number 2, and back again to the right and the left. So I started thinking about right. Okay, so my sister said, "Come on, Vivek. My sister doesn't believe none of this."
Yeah.
Again, in the great duality, she is the white sheep, I'm the black sheep. I'm the proud black sheep, right?
Yeah.
So I said, okay, so they tell you are right or wrong, right? So if you look at the word right, it is correct. And cor, like com, and con means with, like chili con carne, or compost, right? Correct.
Yeah, it comes from the Latin.
Yes, and rect is rectangle, rectilinear, 90 degrees. So again, when you're correct, also you are with right. So again, they're telling there's no getting away. Somebody's trying to tell you with all the words that you are right. And what do you have when you pass your motions? Your rectum. Now, don't tell me that these brilliant human beings who had, vivisected bodies long ago didn't know that there's no right angle in the body. Of course, they knew there's no right angle in the body. Then why would they name that part of your body the rectum? There's a very good reason for it then, as we will find out. And it's very good to see this body naming thing. Why do they call these the pupils?
Right.
Pupils are students, right? And why do what are pupils? And we have 2 pupils, so we're taking 2 separate sets of information, and then we pass them through our temples. Now the root of temple is tempo or time. All temples are to do with time, which is why they have rings and bells, right? All churches, temples, everybody has rings and bells. So what are they trying to tell you about this rightness of things with correct and with right and that, there's an old story about the asshole being the master of the body. Have you heard that story then?
I haven't seen that, no.
Okay, so all the organs of the body got together and said, like, who's the boss? And everybody said, I'm the boss, So they all decided that they'd shut down, 1 week at a time and see who would be worst. How would the body be worst off? And of course, when the asshole shut up, the body went to hell. So that rectum, that 90 degrees has to be passed.
Yeah.
Right? For us to be healthy.
Yeah.
Now, here's a very interesting tangent. And let's look at the number things that leave us numb are numbers. Right? Numbers. Look at the 0. Look at the number 0. first of all, you have to look at the word zero and say that somebody's trying to tell you a lie. Because a zero represents many things.
Mm-hmm.
A circle represents, first of all, an inside and an outside.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not nothing. It's already got two separations.
Right.
We all know that a circle has to have a center.
Right.
Without a center, there is no circle. There are three things now.
Yeah.
And then we know that the holy circle has a ray Deus, the ray of God, the ray Deus that comes from the center to the circumference to form it.
Interesting. Yes.
So now it's four things.
Yes.
Right? So first of all, you have to realize that the circle is everything for the two-dimensional reality that they're trying to trap us in. And that is why we are caught in pi. We are caught in the endless irrational number. We are creatures based on phi, the golden mean, right?
Right.
We all know it's expressed in all everywhere. And yet, we are called irrational creatures. We are irrational creatures the way we behave right now because we are caught in circles of read this and read that and
yes.
again and again and again and again, right? I call it time a pantomime of hands and faces.
Mm.
You know,
that's a good expression.
The clock face, right, round and round. They're telling you it's the face of a clock, and the hands are moving, and you are going around in a circle. Now, there's a very interesting thing, Zen. I don't know if you can see my little notebook. Can you see that little diagram?
The radius with the tangent.
Yes.
Yes.
Now the tangent is where anything flies off of when you come away from the circle. And that tangent is at 90 degrees.
Right.
And that is the right angle. Yes. That is the right angle that you need to correctly get out of to escape the circle.
Interesting. Well, actually, if you picture the circle spinning, if you just leap, the circle keeps going, or if you go in that direction, you will be naturally a tangent.
Yes.
You know, another interesting thing is the diameter, because that's the only flat line besides with the tangents, almost like a virtual line. But when a diameter cuts it in half and sets up the polarity, which is contrary to the curved line of the perfect circle.
The circumference.
Yes.
Exactly. Right?
So interesting.
So that means the right angle is the only way to exit a circle. You either exit it at the right angle or you come back to the center. There's no way, there's no other way. You can't break a circle and leave.
Yeah.
So they're trying to tell you that the right angle is the right angle for the circular world. But it's the wrong, it's not the real angle of our existence is the tone from the cone that we need to figure out.
Yes.
Phi.
Right. Well, then you get right to the spiral immediately, because if you look at the golden mean, they draw the spiral in it, and you see it in nature, and often the spiral to me makes, it's very inspiraling actually, but
exactly inspired.
History, I think, is a spiral, not a circle. Yes, things repeat, but in a different way each time. It's moving forward. It's probably infinite. I don't think there's an end point. Certainly there's very dramatic phases we go through, which apparently from ancient history that's being uncovered, it's been pretty traumatic on our existence. But isn't our personal life the same way? My life, your life from today's conversation has been very traumatic, and it's gone through cycles. And each time it gets a little more refined. We realize where we're going, we get more awake, and it becomes more fun despite everything we've gone through. So that's, I don't know. There's all these parallels. We're going to have to wrap up. We've got just a few minutes till we reach our end.
Oh,
and this
cool.
this has been the fastest 2 hours in history because
2 hours?
Yeah. Can you believe it? Talk about time craziness. And we'll continue, man. I know you got a lot there.
Wow.
Anything you want? I know. I want to talk about your project real quick.
Absolutely. Wow. Zen, did we really pass 2 hours?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Before we get to my project, can I hear about your books?
Well, you know what? Well, I don't read as many books as I used to. But I read 18 hours a day. But the book that came to mind, when you said that, when I read Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse.
Wow, I love that book also.
That book changed my life because it was me. And I always related to it. And I became a very big fan of Zen Buddhism and mysticism around that time, and which is how Zen Gardner was born. But it's that book, it's the simple story of Gautama Buddha, but it's incredibly apt for me. And the other books of Hermann Hesse as well. I mean, there's all the classics from that era. I was a real reader because there wasn't internet. We didn't have it, and I became a loner. I became very introverted because I realized I didn't know who I was, where am I going, why am I here, and where am I? So until those were answered, I knew I just had to keep searching. There was no other alternative but to do that. But anyway, that was the one that came to mind. But I want to hear about your project before we have to cut off.
Sure, absolutely. I just want to say really quickly,
we can do a special on it as it unravels.
I would love to do that. Absolutely.
Yeah, let's do that.
So, part of my own awakening and realization Zen has been a very technological one. I call it technological. I started to see the world in a completely different way. And it almost became like I got to see the inefficiencies of whatever mechanical or electrical system that I was looking at, and a very graceful way to get beyond it. And I think of all the things that I worked on in this space, I tried to design various things. I decided that now was the time to work on electric vehicles, because electric vehicles are really needed, but not in the way Elon Musk is bringing them, or the whole Tesla Motors thing, or even all the large car companies. And this is, again, I think the Aquarian switch. These are the behemoths of the Piscean age.
Yes.
They can't. They don't know any other way to move.
That's right.
So I had this very interesting and very radical breakthrough to make electric vehicles a completely viable possibility for the world, and using existing, lead acid battery technology, which can be recycled, unlike the lithium ion and all these super expensive technologies that are very toxic, unrecyclable, etc. Which is what is being pushed by. The first Tesla was 5,000, laptop batteries essentially, or how many ever there were, 400 or whatever, running that car. So I have this really beautiful vehicle in prototype right now that I want to showcase by breaking the world record for the range of an electric vehicle on a single charge in the year 2016. With this one breakthrough that I have, actually a couple of breakthroughs that I have, and other partners that I have brought to the table. This very brilliant, quirky battery genius from Sweden, this brilliant American Michelin Design Award winner, GM advanced car design guy who races from the US. Another great friend of mine out of the US again. I'm very karmically linked to the US. It's just, there's something about it. Yeah. I'm not there right now. And then this brilliant fabricator that I met, on a street corner kind of that shop in India, who's just a genius with metal. Just great energy coming together to try and break this record. The record is a way to show, maybe an Aquarian design mind, that how do we take it back? How do we take this ugly, explosive oil world back to our more harmonious way of being?
Yes.
Now, we hope to smash, I don't really use those words, but kind of smash or shatter that record, especially on a cost basis. The current record holders have spent millions of dollars over 20 years to get the record. And I'm saying we'll do it under $100,000 and in under 4 months, because we've thought differently and so differently.
Yes.
So we're doing a crowdfund. I'm releasing a book at the same time that is with you, that I would love to hear from you about how you liked it.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to build that vehicle. We're going to break the record. I know it because we've already proven in prototype. Now is just the time to get some world-class parts together to build the vehicle to actually show what's being done. We plan to open source one of the core breakthroughs so that anybody
Yes.
can build this vehicle, and then also continue to bring out these radical innovations over the next few years of just changing our relationship with technology because it's time.
Yes. How do people, anybody hearing this and wants to be able to resource where you are, where your fundraisers are, more information about the project, some more details, how do they find you?
So I would really point everybody to a website, Adi Vahan. That's AADIVAAHAN.com, adivahan.com.
If anybody forgets that, go to my website and look up Vivek in the search spyglass, and
Yes.
it'll come up in all of his posts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on YouTube, and I'd be happy to send you some. Actually, we have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to send you some links also, Zen, that you can post with this interview if you like. We're just coming up with this crowdfund called Keto. It's an Indian crowdfunding platform called Keto.
Mm-hmm.
I'll share that link with you as well. The Keto crowdfund page should be up by the 15th. And it would be so beautiful for your community to just come in and support energetically. I know money is what it is for everybody, but whoever sees this and finally gets to see the Keto and the crowdfund and what we're trying to do, please just send all the plus energy you can, or rather the plus and the minus energy neutral. Yeah, pass it around.
Right.
You know, and we're the connectors of this Aquarian times, and you and I and all of us that are listening to this.
Yeah,
you know,
that's right.
Please reach out to us. I would love to say one thing. I think for you, people like you and me who've written for many years, I would really ask people to come back to the comment sections very strongly. It's very important for the intelligentsia and the aware people that are reading to come and take back the dialogue under comments. It's very important. Comments are driving large parts and large memes about how people are thinking.
Yes.
And the shills and the trolls are trying to take these conversations away. You know, great writing, great videos can be forgotten in the mess of commenting. I comment very heavily wherever I go, and I request everybody hearing this that to people that you like and people who you enjoy reading, take the time to stop by and share something, because that's how the conversation will grow. And I really appreciate what you're doing, Zen, for the alternative movement. Really deeply, you know, I've heard your voice. I've seen people that you brought onto the table that I'm so grateful to have discovered through you, your own writing. I see how incessantly you put out new things for people to think about. I think the fulcrum that you have been for us, you have been for me. I hope I can be for others over here. You know, India really needs awakening. I hope I can bring you here.
Yes.
Or at least bring you this way.
Yes, yes.
Bring you back. I really look forward to that.
Yeah. I'm so thankful for you. I mean, you're what you bring and represent, and your energy and your insights, to me is so heartening, so inspiring, so resonant, and it's an honor to know you. I'm so glad we did this. We'll definitely do more, and I'll definitely put on the website, your launch, your information, and Facebook it. Ask others to pass it around, because like you said, yeah.
Please go ahead.
No, I was going to say. Go ahead.
You.
And I'll ask others to keep passing it around. And there's a beautiful community. There's people that get it, and we don't need to listen to the confusion too much and the shills and the spooks and all that stuff. They're so wimpy. As we raise our vibration, it just looks so foolish. And more people are getting it all the time. There's a lot to be encouraged about.
Seriously, as we clarify, I think we need to still be still, clarify, calm down, slow down. I think slowing down is speeding up in this time in terms of trying to head in the correct direction.
Yes.
Yeah?
Slowing down is speeding up. That's good.
Speeding up. So
Okay, I think we're gonna be nipped in the bud. Love you so much, brother.
Love you so much too.
Much
To
love.
all of your readers.
Thank you. Tum so pyar karte hai.
हम आपसे भी बहुत प्यार करते हैं. Thank you for being who you are.
Thank you too, brother. It's an honor. And I hope a lot of people get to hear this and experience you.
I hope it was coherent enough to make some sense.
No, it is beautiful. You're beautiful. Thank you so much.
Take care, brother Zen.
Okay, folks, that was Vivek Chaturvedi, a beautiful man, as you can see. Please go to his website, Adivan, it's AADIVAAHAN, Adivahan, .blogspot,
.wordpress.
Yeah, on WordPress. And or go to my site and look for his name, Vivek. But I'm really thankful he could be with us today. And
yes, please go to Zen's site and let's get many more of Zen's books sold.
Yeah, get the book. That'd be great. Hey, it's going out hotcake. We're getting amazing reviews. It's having a wonderful effect. I'm very excited because that's what I put it together for, is to empower people, and it's getting passed around, and I'm really, really excited about it. Thanks for that.
So good to hear.
Okay, we'll see you soon. Namaskar.
Brother Zen. Namaskar. Sayonara.
Mucho pyar.
Aapko bhi.
Thank you for tuning into CCN. This unique network is dedicated to free and independent media. CCN was created with the belief that information is the common heritage of all beings, which is why our live stream high-definition broadcast is easily accessible and free to view. If we want to change the world, we must first change the media. Having produced over 1,000 shows in 2015, which are all archived on YouTube, we look forward to bringing you more groundbreaking, cutting-edge information in 2016. For more information on what is on, please check out our broadcast guide for weekly updates. CCN broadcasts in multiple languages and features some key voices of our challenging times who are all in pursuit of a free, fair, just, sustainable world. CCN belongs to you, the people, and it is up to you all to keep this network on the air. Please contribute to the Network Support Fund or visit the CCN shop. We thank you all for supporting free and independent media.